So it is still Tiger Woods dominating the back pages, but for very different reasons. This morning he is kind of kitted out in his suit. We'll start with the Irish Examiner, stepping off that plane in Paris yesterday. Continuing the journey, reads the headline here. Has Tiger the stamina to be an American force in Paris? So all these pictures have been doing the rounds yesterday of like the US team standing on the staircase coming off their plane. And I'm not quite sure, are they actually cool pictures or are they incredibly dorky pictures?
I think Davis Love and one of the other vice captains are two of the only people, and Patrick Reed are the only ones not wearing glasses. So whether they're giving off the impression that they had an unbelievable flight and absolutely let rip or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's a strange kind of, it's a real kind of American kind of photo, isn't it? Yeah, I couldn't imagine the European. Yeah, pretty much actually. Yeah, like all you need is some guy going around with a towel. Yeah. Kind of, you know what I mean? That's kind of, it's a strange kind of one, but that's the kind of razzmatazz they bring to things. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think anybody else would like pose for that type of photo, or any other team even.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like, it's strange that they're, obviously, the fact that it's on in Paris, like a very untraditional location for the Ryder Cup. Obviously, it's going to Rome, I think, in a few years' time as well. It's going to be back in Ireland, hopefully, as well, in a Dare manner soon. But kind of moving it away from those traditional confines, I think, is a positive thing. And like I was saying this in yesterday's show, the more we move away from the traditional idea of what the Ryder Cup is, the better. Because, like Jack Nicklaus, reading a few of his quotes, like, I'm not sure, are they, like, I presume they're quite old quotes where he's talking about the competitive nature of the Ryder Cup, that it wasn't founded on the premise of kind of deciding who's better, Europe or America. It was almost founded on experimental terms where it was like, this would be cool if we did this thing. Whereas I think Nicklaus's comments, if we could move away from that and make it uber competitive, I think we'd all be happy for it. Like, I think the highlight of the last Ryder Cup was Patrick Reed versus Rory McIlroy, and the fist pumping, the geeing up the crowd. And if that can happen in Paris this weekend, I think we'll all be delighted. Like, the very traditionalist golf fans perhaps might frown upon it, but I think it'll be fantastic.
There's nothing like putting a flag against, would say, another flag, or do you know what I mean? It's just, and the whole the Americans, it's the Americans against Europe. It's a big thing. It's like a parochial thing in GA terms, or that people love that. You know, you're doing it for the parish, you're doing it for the badge or whatever, and the competitive element, like Patrick Reed, like you'd be getting messages in WhatsApp group during the last Ryder Cup, and it's like, I hate this Patrick Reed guy, you know, and it's just like, it was unbelievable because he had everything bubbling to the surface. He was playing to the crowd. That's what it's all about. And I suppose some of the best ones, I know it went a bit too far there a few years ago with some of the controversy, and
it didn't go far enough for me.
Well, probably not. No, I would kind of be like a wrestling fan actually. Like, so you love all that kind of stuff and playing to the crowd, and you know, guys getting booed. You know, you're a good guy, you're a bad guy. This kind of dynamic. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, that's the drama that you want. I don't think it been played out on like as friendly kind of gentlemanly terms. I know it's a gentleman's game, but I think you want that element of competition.
So as a wrestling fan, would you have been delighted when the European Tour like had that walk-on music earlier on in the season and all that sort of stuff?
Anything like that, I think you should start introducing walk-on teams into this as well. It'd be interesting as well. Anything that kind of boosts the profile, I suppose, and gets kind of people talking as well. Yeah, and anything where it's G'd up a bit like that. Even Croke Park have done it now after the All-Ireland final, where the winners, all the confetti and everything comes out, and I'm waiting for it like a WWE show at the start. There'll be this big pyro, you know, exploding everywhere. Even when the teams come out and all the music, and they've kind of gone towards everybody's kind of going towards the US kind of pageantry thing and making it, I suppose, the Super Bowl kind of effect and the NFL effect, making it as big of an event, not just within sports terms, but within, you know, showbiz and celebrities and music and things like that. And I think that kind of draws more people in fairness.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, everybody, especially when it comes to the likes of GAA and golf, I think they share the sort of traditionalist value in that, which is quite important. It is quite important in terms of, I guess, the reason why it was founded, in terms of nationalism and all that sort of stuff when it comes to the GAA. But I don't think that needs to be mutually exclusive from the idea of pageantry, as you say. And I'm personally not against that. I know people are quite vocal in terms of saying that, you know, the All-Ireland finals, for example, shouldn't turn into something like the Super Bowl. It would be a very interesting experiment to give Vince McMahon control of the Ryder Cup, or give him control of the European Tour, the PGA Tour. What would he do with it? Or vice versa, give golf chiefs
You'd have
control of the
predetermined
WWE.
Results, I reckon, anyway. And just on anybody, because I always get this the whole time, and anybody that kind of slags off wrestling or whatever, right? The way I'd put it to you is this: if two teams are going out, and there's a lot of people talking about Gaelic football and negative tactics and that, their sole objective is to win, okay? So sometimes it's not easy on the eye. Whereas within wrestling, their sole objective is to make you and me, the punter, happy.
Yeah.
So they're trying to put on the best show possible. So anybody like that says, "Oh, it's fake" and all this kind of crap.
Well, it's fake.
Yeah, fair enough. It's scripted fun. That's the way I look at it, and it's scripted to try and make it as enjoyable and as entertaining for you as possible.
Who's your favourite wrestler?
Favorite wrestler, probably toss up Ric Flair or Bret Hart. I'd say, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're kind of the older generation. The current kind of I don't know if you're following. There's a '90s WWE Twitter account.
Oh yes, I do follow that.
Like it literally. I have to leave it throughout the day. I don't look at it throughout the day. I only look at it when I finish work, because you find yourself just spending an hour watching these clips. That was like the greatest generation of them all, and just I love the bit of nostalgia and just looking back through it.
That was pre-Attitude Era, no?
That was no, 90s would have taken in 97, 98, 99 would have taken in the Attitude Era, you know, Austin, Rock, all that kind of
Yeah, without question.
When literally anything went.
Yeah, some crazy stuff. Let us know actually who your favourite wrestler was. You can tweet us at OTB AM or comment on the stream if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube this morning. We'll crack on with a few more of the newspapers. The Times Ireland edition this morning is leading with the golf as well. Woods holds no fear for us, says Bjorn. Which is an interesting...
I love that obvious. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's the most obvious thing of all time. He's hardly going to say, "We're absolutely running scared of Tiger."
Yeah.
You know?
Like, is this sort of Q-tourism going on from Bjorn here, from the European team, where it's like, you're sure, look at Tiger Woods there, he's flying it at the moment. He's
Well, listen, you know all about it now, in fairness. You've lived through it. But like, he's kind of played down, he's kind of played up that this is like one of the greatest American teams ever put together.
Yeah.
But like, like Europe have a great chance as well, in fairness. Like they've a pretty strong team assembled as well. It's going to be interesting, and obviously it being on home soil in Europe does help an awful lot as well. But you have to kind of play it up that, in fairness. He must have someone within the GA, I'd say, advise them on his media business.
I would say Europe care more about the Ryder Cup, and therefore the incentive there, say if it's going down the home stretch in the singles on Sunday, there's just a little bit more of a carrot there. I like, it may be a very lazy thing to say, but I just don't sense... Like, I think Tiger Woods obviously has always been levelled with that criticism that he just hasn't put it in the Ryder Cup, and the reason why his results haven't been great is because he just doesn't care about it enough. And you can see why. You know, it's not a hugely lucrative thing in comparison to, say, the Tour Championship at the weekend. It's not hugely lucrative on an individual basis like the majors are. And that is the very thing that drives him. So it's hard to get yourself up for something like this, particularly when you are living in an environment where you see the Jack Nicklaus quotes where it's like, this thing isn't about winning. But perhaps with Europe there is kind of a different vibe about it, where winning is really bloody important.
I'd say Tiger cares a good bit more about it now than he did, by all accounts.
Well, sure, as a vice captain, like he would have.
But by all accounts, he was the most like individualistic person, and that's probably what made him so great. And I think Rory McIlroy even said as well that, you know, the Ryder Cup wasn't necessarily a priority for him.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I have always got that impression, the same as you, that it does mean a little bit more to the Europeans for whatever reason. I'm not 100% why, but as you said, if it is tight coming down the stretch, you'd hope that would come out in some shape or form.
Yeah, kind of like the way the Americans approach it, and this may be doing them a real injustice, it's just my view on this, is kind of like the way the American basketball team approaches the Olympics, that they're like, this is a really important thing to represent your country, an Olympic medal is a really important thing to have in my repertoire, but give me an NBA championship any day of the week. And I think that's how the Americans view the Ryder Cup in relation to other majors and stuff like that. But you know, it's brilliant. I just love the team nature of it all, and hopefully we will have a really good contest coming down the home stretch on Sunday, as I say. So the Irish Independent this morning, this is the PGA story of the morning. Sheedy gets 3 years to turn Tip around. It's Colm Keys writing here. So Liam Sheedy is back as Tipperary manager. It wouldn't be a big shock to many people after what's happened over the last couple of weeks. We've seen this one coming. Is it a big shock though in the general context of things? Like at the start of this year, if you were told that going into 2019 Liam Sheedy's going to be back managing Tip, would you have been surprised?
Massively surprised, yeah. No point in saying any different, yeah. It's very easy when you're doing your bit of punditry, and he's obviously got a high profile job within Bank of Ireland. It's very easy to stay on the sideline, but as I was saying to off air, I think he's probably seen it maybe going south a small bit, and I think not that he turned it down the first time, but I don't think it maybe floated his interest that much when he was approached first, and then maybe he thought about it a bit more and realised that he could make a big difference if he came back. Like, I don't think it can be underplayed. Like, Sheedy is the Messiah in Tipperary. Like the lad, like anybody that played under him from 2008 to 2010, the time they had for him when he left in, Lar Corbett and Brendan Cummins had been on the record when he left in 2010. It was like someone was after dying, like, and that was the general kind of mood, and it was like a bubble burst after winning the All-Ireland now, and it's just probably the fresh injection of kind of optimism and energy that's needed there. And I think people are getting a bit carried away with like maybe the age profile and that as well. Some of the guys, Paddy Matter, would be 28, 29, and Callan is the same, and Brendan Matter and a few others. But like they won under 21 All-Ireland last month, and they won a minor All-Ireland 2 years ago. Like there's loads of talent coming through. He's got loads to work with, and I think that shouldn't be lost on people. I know it was an upset when they beat Cork, but like if Offaly had an All-Ireland under 21 winning team, we'd be thinking we're going to win the senior All-Ireland next year. Do you know what I mean? Like so, and there's like at least 5 or 6 that are ready to make a breakthrough there. I think him sorting out the spine of the defence and getting rid of these discipline issues that seem to be rearing their head is probably the big thing.
Well, that's the thing. The thing about the discipline issues is that they're quite salacious, some of the things that we've seen or that have been thrown around the camp, that it just becomes, like a lot of GAA rumours, just complete wildfire, and it affects your view of the team. And really, if you just look at it in the cold light of day, what actually happened to Tip last year? Like, very, very close to beating Galway, who went on to win the All-Ireland. What happened this year? Win of a post from not getting knocked out against Munster. Who knocked them out? Limerick. Limerick went on to win the All-Ireland. So they were that close to the All-Ireland champions over the last 2 years. The idea that Tipperary have regressed into the middle ground, I think, is a bit of a nonsense, to be honest. I think they're still well able to contend with all the teams. The question really is that this is perhaps the best batch of players, perhaps in the forwards, like especially in the forwards, I would say, in the country, that perhaps are underachieving a small, but that you look at Galway and the way they were spoken about this year, that they were expected to go on and win another title, they were expected to go back to back, whereas people in Tip, I would imagine, would have been thinking to themselves, God, that should be the conversation they should have been having about us.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a thing that's kind of thrown at them that they're one-hit wonders, or some people would say, they won one in a row. That seems to be the thing, and I just think it brings that like sense of optimism. Anyone that maybe was making incorrect decisions off the field, they would definitely be thinking twice with Liam in charge. I think his backroom team hasn't been announced yet, but you'd imagine there's going to be a lot of high profile kind of people in there. There's not going to be any stone unturned. Anybody who feels that they can offer something to Tip, I'd say, will be going gung-ho this year. He just has that kind of aura about him, in fairness.
Yeah.
And he never dirtied his bib in the 8 years by slagging off players or anything like that. He didn't take the easy option and say that some kind of people do when they go into the media and kind of maybe talk about players and talk about certain things that have happened. I think it's a massive appointment. I could not have seen this coming until a week ago.
Yeah. So there will be more on that a little bit later on the show. You can tweet us your thoughts on the new Tip appointment, tweeting us at Off The Ball. Moving on to the Irish Times this morning, they're leading with the golf as well. Tiger still has plenty to prove in the Ryder Cup, says Philip Reid. If this is the second coming of a better Woods, then it is going to be great for the game. He's bang on there. And European captain Bjorn says Garcia is in a good place. Like, Garcia is one of the enigmas of this European team that most people would have said he didn't deserve to be there whatsoever. But it's Sergio Garcia. He's one of the great modern Ryder Cup players. It's like he could be Paul Teresk this weekend. Basically, it's like where could this run of form come from? Where could this spark that has been absent from his entire season come from? Well, sometimes that just happens in the Ryder Cup. And finally for me then, it is golf on the back page of the Racing Post as well. Red alert, says the headline. Resurgent superstar Woods 8-1 to outscore his Ryder Cup teammates, which doesn't actually sound like a bad bet. You've got a couple of the tabloids, Mike?
Yeah, I have the Irish Sun here. Nice headline here. Croak of gold for GA. So this is just about JP McManus's unbelievable gesture, giving 3.2 million to the GA to be equally distributed amongst the 32 counties, 100,000 for each county board. I think it's a massive gesture, and just for it's going to seep down through all the clubs. Like I think there's 22 clubs in Fermanagh. They're going to get to the guts of about 4,500 each. Like that's huge. Like that's some amount of lotto tickets to be selling on a Saturday night or that. Like it helps out some amount.
What would you do with it if your club suddenly had $4,000?
Oh, you always have bills to pay. Unfortunately, like I don't think people realise the ongoing and running costs of a GA club. Like between insurance, between we'll say paying all electricity bills, everything down, and we've a kind of a pretty substantial kind of grounds where we are, and you're paying rates and you're paying all different things, and there's just bills every week that you have to pay. And like you're looking at most clubs, well, smaller clubs anyway, 100,000 realistically operating costs for a year. So if you're getting 3,000 or 4,000, that helps an awful lot. And it takes away from your fundraiser, and you don't have to be going around with the poor mouth, standing outside the church or doing bag packing so in the local supermarket. You know what I mean? It helps an awful lot. And it's an unbelievable gesture. And I even saw somebody saying that maybe it's kind of showed the GA the way maybe that they should have dealt with rugby and soccer being played in Croke Park and repatriated some of that money back to the clubs basically that put Croke Park together, shall we say. But it's an interesting kind of train of thought there as well. But JP, yeah, you'd be hoping that Tiger wins more tournaments and Limerick win more All-Irelands, and there'll be more going to go back to, more money going back to more county boards.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got a couple of more of the papers?
Yeah, I do indeed. I have the Guardian here again. It's all about Tiger on the back, and Thomas Bjorn, we don't fear anyone. Europe can tame Tiger, says Bjorn. Interesting one here in the back of the Mirror. Frank Lampard tells Jose Mourinho we're both in a sack race. Again, good headline. The headline writers certainly earned their corn, in fairness. And then just the last one here in the Herald. It is a tough act to follow. So Staple, we don't have quality of Jack's team. So Frank Stapleton just talking about how they could never basically go in the same shoes as Jack Charlton's team, and it's hard to argue that at the moment with our current fortunes.
Definitely. We should move on to the Daily Mail. I'm not sure we have a copy there because they've got big news this morning on Declan Rice. I think you've got a copy there somewhere. Here we go.
Indeed,
yeah. So this is the back page of the Daily Mail this morning. Jumping ship, Matt Lawton and Matt Barlow blow for Ireland as Rice look ready to declare for England. So this is relatively inevitable if you were of that disposition. I certainly was quite hopeful over the last couple of weeks. Some of the sounds from the camp, what we'd been reading in the Star, like Paul Lennon saying that there was going to be talks with Rice's parents and all that sort of stuff, and that the door was still very much open, and that Declan Rice, like the idea that he was still deliberating had to be taken at face value. And I bought that, and I bought the idea that Declan Rice might well throw on an Ireland senior shirt when it comes to competitive matches in the near future. It doesn't seem that's going to happen. It seems that England have won the battle to secure the rights to Declan Rice. So a bitter blow, because he's been so good over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, and sure, we're just crying out for someone like that as well, in fairness. Like, I think kind of the longer those type of things goes on, and the more people that get in someone's ear, particularly at his club, and his chairman came out with certain comments this year about how he could be, an English centre half in the future or whatever. The more people start talking to you, the more that starts infiltrating your mind. But I just wonder, like, how often would he play with England, if at all? Are we going to end up with a similar situation to the Jack Grealish case, where he will play never, or not at the moment anyway, never, or will he get capped for England, especially with their kind of got riches at centre half, don't they? Yeah, like the thing is with Grealish, you do wonder if attaching himself to a club like Aston Villa, like the way they plummeted obviously out of the Premier League, that's just kind of postponed his progression to the England team just for a little while, because the club form isn't going so well. Gareth Southgate doesn't need to go to a championship game to recruit players for the England squad. So, like, fair play to him for being loyal to Aston Villa is what I'd say, but I do think it's harmed his international career. With Declan Rice, I think the way West Ham are playing football, thanks to Declan Rice, they look in a very good position to stay up this year in the Premier League. I think it'd be a surprise if they got relegated at this point, because they look to be trending in the right direction heavily at this point. So I think that might progress a little bit quicker from his perspective. Also as well, when you look at the depth that they have in that position, quite a specialised position, as opposed to, say, Jack Grealish, when you have, like, when he's going up against the likes of Sterling and Lingard, etc., etc. Like, for Declan Rice, he looks at Eric Dyer and is like, well, there's a little bit of a weakness there. It's not exactly England's strongest position. So there is certainly a route for Declan Rice to get into that England team if he continues to go in the direction which he is. And to be honest with you, looking at him over the last couple of weeks, that direction is going right for the sky. Can I just ask you, like, I'm a casual soccer fan, is he that good, or are we like putting all our hopes in it and seeing every little good thing that he does? Oh, we totally are. But like, as well as that, it seems to be an exceptionally gifted young footballer. Like, just I suppose in the context of this season, like at the start of the year, it looked like maybe Declan Rice wasn't all that if we were to believe some of the analysis we were looking at in that West Ham midfield when he was playing alongside Jack Wilshere and Mark Noble. And then it turned out that Jack Wilshere was actually the problem. He's injured, Declan Rice is back in the team. That injury just happened to coincide with the international break, which is perfect timing for Declan Rice to go right back into the West Ham team just as he was making all the back pages here in Ireland, playing alongside Pedro Obiang and Mark Noble. He looks far better holding the midfield, and just the way he managed to marshal that midfield against Chelsea at the weekend was really bloody impressive. Although Johnny Ward was in here yesterday and he said he thought he was rubbish on Sunday, which
wouldn't be like Johnny to have an outlandish comment to make now.
To have a strange thing. But no, he was man of the match on Sunday, so he's definitely, the hype is real, I would say, about Declan Rice. But you're right, the hype, while it's real, it's just been exploded to the point where we think that he's, where we think he looks like the next Harry Cantona to all of us here in Ireland. So it's a shame. Like just to specify here, Matt Lawton and Matt Barlow in that piece do say that he's yet to make a decision, but it does seem that he's leaning more towards Gareth Southgate's side at this point, which is a bit of a shame. We'll bring you a couple of the local newspapers before we wrap up. The Mayo News this morning, first of all. They're leading with, I presume, yes, the next Mayo. I think it's a great headline. Yeah. The new Mayo manager job, if the cap fits. So that's Mike Solon on one side of the cover there, James Horan on the other. Is it an either-or decision?
On paper it is. I think James Horan, just even reading some of the quotes after Westport were defeated the other night, he's over Westport in the Mayo Championship, I think he'd like to have Mike working with him, whether that's a dynamic that Mike obviously has his own backroom team put together and his own kind of ticket, and James has his own ticket as well, and has actually said that he's had a lot of CVs sent on to him with some very high calibre people, so he's kind of saying that it's a big deal from a lot of people outside of inside Mayo and outside of Mayo. Whether the two of them work together, it would make a lot of sense, because Mike was over the under-21s 2 years ago when they won the All-Ireland. He was obviously over the under-20s this year when they got to the finals. It would make a lot of sense. And much like Tip as well, I think people have a bit of a misunderstanding of Mayo. Mayo have lots of underage talent coming through. Of that under-21 team that won the All-Ireland, only 5 of them have played senior championship football. So there are plenty more to come through, and of the under-20 team this year as well, there'll be plenty more of them. Obviously none of them have played senior at all. So there's plenty to work with, and even Horn was saying today that it's exciting times and he'd love to be involved. Like, just because the current team, a lot of them are a good few of them are, you know, over 30, doesn't mean there's not loads of other good talent to work with.
I wonder, do we get carried away a small bit when we look at, say, Limerick in the hurling this year, or Clare in 2013, where football teams are looking at them saying, why can't we do that, when it's patently obvious that footballers just take a little bit longer to develop because it's, I guess, it's a sport less based on skills. So naturally, the gifted hurlers are going to come through straight away in hurling, or come through a lot quicker than in football. And Mayo might look at them and say, well, we won an under-21 title there a few years ago. Why don't we have the next Kyle Hayes or the next Cian Lynch coming through, like whatever the Mayo equivalent is? Like, I think you're right. I think there is a well of talent there. I do think, though, it's just been a little bit slow coming through, particularly in the forward ranks.
Yeah, they just still haven't got that marquee forward. I don't like using the term marquee forward, but maybe a couple of scoring forwards coming into it. Kind of Conor Loftus was kind of talked about. He's been on the scene a bit. But there's been loads. Like TJ Reid was a couple of years with Kilkenny, as was Richie Hogan. Some guys just need a bit more time than others. You'd hope that when he's 24, 25, that he'd be ready to make that big breakthrough. Owen O'Donoghue played a good bit this year. Cian Hanley played a good bit this year that hadn't played before. James Durkin as well. Mm-hmm. They have introduced, and what I saw in the Newbridge game against Kildare was particularly two young fellas, Diarmuid O'Connor, who's been around, seems like he's been around forever, same as Killian, and he has been around for a long time, and Paddy Durkin, another young fella, stepping up, and it's those type of guys that will be expected to kind of drive it forward. Like Diarmuid O'Connor that night was just phenomenal. Like
future captain material.
Oh, 100%, and he was young footballer of the year maybe 2-3 years ago. Like he's only 23 or 24, and people kind of maybe forget that as well. I think they have lots to work with. As you said, though, it does take a little longer with footballers. It's just, hurling is such a kind of dynamic game, and because of the skill, probably the more emphasis on skills, you can probably get away with being younger and kind of more mobile, whereas football, it's natural. It takes a bit longer to mature. Absolutely.
Let's have a look at the Irish News this morning. They're leading with this in the sports pages. It is McManus's €3.2 million gift for GAA clubs. Remarkable, and McKinley says that he quit over a lack of player buy-in.